hopefully can come through.
And then I said, oh,
We'll see.
Paul's place.
That's a day's
Paul's
interest income for you.
Yeah, right?
Okay, we'll get started with the kind of the work session here. 2018 board dates and board appointments. Commissioner Thomas, you got some questions? Would you like to discuss this?
He hasn't thought about it long enough.
No, I
Once Debbie started.
The appointments?
You got some absolute knots or what you want to talk about here?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what WIA is. Nobody's called me to go to
Workforce
that.
investment.
That no longer exists.
Okay.
No longer exists.
The acronym
You've
is
been all year looking for that meeting?
I know.
Is that the acronym or the agency no longer exists?
Yeah, well,
It's been disbanded. They don't use that anymore.
Okay.
So that was an easy one last year for you, huh?
Wanna keep that
I'll keep that one. Yeah,
Nice work.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, we had just said that we'd have a conversation about this prior to our reorg meeting,
Yeah.
so that our reorg meeting would not be a lot of
Sure.
heavy lifting. And so, I'm not dissatisfied with anything I'm doing. If there's something that somebody wants to swap out, I don't have any affinities that I can't.
Is there anything that we typically rotate, Holly?
Board of Revisions is one that's good to rotate, because, I don't know, if you agree, you've done it, I think, 3 years now. I did it 2 years. But it's just that's a good learning experience to see about, the whole thing with the impact of the property taxes and that revenue that comes in. So I don't know if you want to keep that, Mike, or if you want that to go to Shane. But that is
Yeah.
a little bit of a time commitment, a couple of long days in the spring when they do some viewings and stuff like that. And then when they have the hearings, and then otherwise the meetings are just real short meetings. But that's one that has room, I mean, I don't know, that's just thought on that.
Would you like to do that once?
Yeah, and I don't mind.
Okay.
That's one that I know that we had talked about last year that should rotate a little bit. But,
Okay. Let's do that. Let's put Shane on that. Okay. Well, give me one of Shane's then, so.
You can have WIA.
Yeah.
You gotta buy your own lunch at that one.
Solid waste, we're all on solid waste. What's the district health advisory board? I'm on that.
We're all on it.
We're all on it.
I think that's still fine, Mike. You've got the museum advisory committee that you added
Okay.
last year. I'm not looking to do anything else.
Okay, Holly, anything you'd like to be on that you haven't been on, or anything you wanna?
I'm good with
How's that first Tuesday working out for you?
the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday?
That works, but you were staying on WSOS, right? So, I mean, that's fair board night, so those two have to be two different people. We're all on OSS.
And, I mean,
There's a children,
did you ever do Records Commission?
Records Commission?
You did the Records Commission when you first come in, right?
No.
Holly, you've?
I've been on Records Commission. That's
What do they do?
it's a tough one, Nikki controls that.
It's like a 5-minute meeting. A
Is
few
your-
times a year.
How many?
A few. We're supposed to be 2, but we usually do it. We've been doing it 3 or 4 just to help get rid of the records that people need to dispose of faster.
Should we add investment committee? Because I don't think that we've done, I mean, we are now doing it on a quarterly basis. And I think maybe that's one Shane ought to,
We don't have, oh no, we do have,
Shane's got the background. I mean, I'll be happy to continue to do it, but
Okay.
I think you'd enjoy seeing what that, what they're doing with the investment, Shane.
Okay.
How often does Family and Children's First meet? You've been doing that one.
They meet quarterly.
I mean, you want to switch that, I mean, or do you want to stay on it and with Records Commission?
Sure,
Me?
sure.
Because I've never done Family and Children's First.
All right, there you go, you got it. Records Commission, I'm on.
Where Mike goes, music follows him.
And
You gotta sing
and
there.
you're gonna do it.
Is that your phone?
Yeah, my phone, yeah.
Now let's all sing along.
There's no reindeer in there.
Ken's looking for Santa. Where is he? Where is
I got excited. We heard
You
him.
wanna go?
I did. He doesn't need me.
Yeah, Joel said I should turn it down a little bit, but I can't hear it if I do. So.
he? Huh?
So you're taking Records Commission, what, Holly, what are you
Holly's
taking?
Children and Family First.
And we're gonna add investment committee to
Yep,
Shane's,
I got that one.
and Shane's also taking land bank.
Well, there's really no reason to meet
No,
on,
Board of Re.
there's no
It's
reason,
not land bank.
there's no reason to meet on January 8th, is it? We got all the stuff.
Yeah.
That's the day we're supposed to vote, so.
Okay.
Was there
Um,
one coming off if Shane's going to Mike or not?
We
No, I
still
think
doing.
that's- WIA
Holly's-
came off of me.
still
Oh, that's
doing-
right, that's right, you get rid of that one. Here, it could be MIA or WIA.
Well, I think that Holly, on the Regional Planning Executive Committee, are they gonna, have they voted yet about?
I will not have that one, one of you will,
Okay.
because I will go off
Well,
that,
we've gotta wait until the
And one of them has to
Regional
come on
Planning
now.
votes on the
either as an
officer.
officer
Do you
or
need to
just
come
as a
off?
member.
Because the committee was going to recommend that you continue.
The committee was going to recommend us. I would like to, no offense to anybody, but I've done it for 2 years, I'd like to.
Okay, all right.
So that's still a
Well,
question.
well, since Shane took the, I'll take that, since Shane took the investment and water revisions.
So Mike will take
So he's taking which one?
Executive Committee?
Again, yeah, is that appointed? That's not elected, that's appointed?
It's their nominating committee,
Yeah.
a commissioner needs to be on the exec committee, doesn't have to be an officer, but
Okay.
If a commissioner is an officer, then that commissioner counts as the executive committee member.
Okay, what else? Anything else we missed?
No. Everything Shane wants to keep, or have you had your fill of?
No,
Okay.
I've enjoyed them all.
And Holly, you still do issue one?
yeah, unless someone else wants to do it, that's,
No, sounds good.
All right.
Alright. And the only other thing we'll vote on that day is whether you want to talk about today or wait that day, president, vice president, and then potential board days if we want to. Tuesdays, same days, so I don't know, that kind of stuff.
I could do year 2 as chairman. Then you just
Well,
you just
I
gotta
think
work
that
it.
for January, we're gonna keep the meetings on Tuesday for the sake of those of us that are already here. I'll be here on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
So then, well, I think we will probably have a discussion in February about the possibility of looking at something different. But right now, it's Tuesdays.
Because it doesn't have to be, we check the revised code and the only thing that's required on that board organizational meeting is vice president and president. So we can do these at another date. We've always done them on that date, so if we can, we will.
Yeah.
And then the board, if you guys want to say, okay, January, we're going to stick to the same board schedule, and then we'll revisit it for February, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've done the heavy lifting and I think we're in agreement, so
Okay.
that's
And if anything,
good.
any other meetings or any other ones come up that you can think of that we need to add to this?
Jimmy, there are approximately 36 boards and commissions on which we participate, just to let you know that number is plus or minus a couple, but some of the meetings are extremely long and others are relatively short.
That's right.
Yeah.
We try to pick the ones that are short on this end of the table.
Okay.
All right, the next thing is bus transit plan for the city of Tiffin and surrounding areas. Mrs. Watkins, Miss Watkins, Charlene.
Whatever, just don't call me late for dinner. I had just kind of planted the seed a few weeks ago, or about a month ago, in the commissioner's ears about the upcoming ask for a contribution towards the bus transit Phase 2 plan development for the city of Tiffin and surrounding area. I have forwarded the proposals to all of you, including Stacy, so that she has a copy and she could review with you if need be. What we are looking at is the city of Tiffin has already committed and contributed $15,000 towards this plan. This plan would be basically the brainchild of a route, where stops would be, how to finance it, who would operate it, where the funding would come from, if the city of Tiffin and outlying surrounding area had a fixed route bus schedule. This is some type of priority that the city is looking at, and we would agree that it would help free up some of SCAT services so that SCAT could go out further into the county versus having to do a lot of in-town services that they've been doing. The bus transit plan would also potentially have stops out at like the industrial parks, the DJFS, the School of Op, the hospital, different areas. Those stops are definitely still up in the air because this plan will help determine that. The plan also helps put together the timing of the routes, when the stops would be, where they would go. It's just the whole putting together a bus plan. What we would like to do, or what the committee has come together with, is we've got several asks on the table, and we would like to ask the Seneca County Commissioners for a $3,700 contribution towards this plan. The City of Tiffin is picking up the largest part of the bill. We've also have a commitment from the School of Opportunity for $2,000, but we have increased that ask a little bit. We have made a request to both of the universities in town to contribute, and there are two alternatives on the transit plan that we have submitted an application to the Tiffin Community Foundation for funding to fund those two alternatives. And
How much was the request from the foundation?
let me look and I can tell you. It's off the top of my head, I cannot tell you. The request to the foundation would have been approximately $9,500. We did that request through SIDEC because it has to come from a nonprofit. So they were willing to, their intern was willing to write the grant application and submit that. So we worked with them to do that part. Because we didn't want to burden the cost on everybody else for the alternatives, but if we could get extra funding for the alternatives, we definitely wanted to look into those. The proposal itself has a total cost of $27,941.27, so just under $30,000 for the actual services. Those services are going to do things that we've all talked about and discussed. The committee has agreed that they feel they're right. They would actually look into seeing how SCAT could undertake this task and if it would be something to fit into their wheelhouse or if it would need to fit into someone else's wheelhouse. They would do some studies based off of the phase 1 plan that was done by Heidelberg, and the students at Heidelberg did that pro bono, so that was not a cost to the community, and this just supplements and furthers that. Go ahead.
What is there going to be any capital cost if the proposal comes back and everybody likes it and wants to move forward with this routine route? Is there going to be existing equipment such as the bus with SCAT? And then what about operating costs then? Is that going to be SCAT's cost? Cities, who's going to pay for what after that?
That's what this phase 2 helps flush out. It helps flush out what the cost will be and how you get that funded, because there is funding out there for this. But we have to know who's going to fund it, who's going to manage it, and how that's going to happen. Who's going to handle the operating costs. So we can't say who that would be until we get through phase 2 and determine who the appropriate entity would be.
Has there been any general discussion about how much a bus route will cost to operate on an annual basis?
There's been very minor discussion, and I cannot quote that cost to you because I'm not comfortable saying
In my
that.
conversations with School of Op and SCAT, they both think that they may be able to offset some of their existing transportation costs.
Okay.
So there might be a little bit of revenue there. And Mary's conversation with Heidelberg, that they may be able to offset some of their transportation costs for their international students and whatnot. So there may be some incremental cost reduction that could go towards the cause. So
I don't have any problem financing costs, but as I go through this, you're talking about probably a couple of full-time bus drivers. You're talking about a vehicle, at least one vehicle. Benefits, are they a county employee then? Are they a state employee? Are they this entity's employee? I know that all this stuff will be flushed out, but if the eventual cost is going to be $200,000 a year, it kind of makes one decision. If it's going to be 50, it kind of makes another. I just don't know.
I agree. I mean, I think that even if we decide to fund this study, which I think we should, then, that's not an implication that we're going to fund operating costs
Okay.
down
We're
the
gonna-
road.
We're gonna be a financial partner. That gets,
That would be my answer, would be
build it
that
after.
the agreement to fund the phase 2 study is not an agreement to fund the operation of the program. This is to say,
Well,
wanna figure it
I
out.
get that, and I understand that, but we all know what happens.
Yep.
Yep.
Once they start going down the
string
road,
attached to it.
it's difficult to reel fast enough. Okay, so let me make sure I understand. The city is committed 15. The school of op is committed 2.
No,
yes,
oh,
So
okay.
you got 17 in the bag,
yes.
okay? You're talking to TU and Heidelberg about some funding. You're talking to the foundation about some funding, but all those are asks at this point.
Correct.
You're talking to us about 3,700, so I don't know why, I'm not sure why that number, but it doesn't matter, it's a number. So, we're talking about, basically funding 21,000 in the bag. You're telling me it's about 28,000. That other 7,000, are you pretty sure that the rest of these groups are going to kick in?
We believe that if 2 of them cannot, that one other entity has already said they would step up and make sure that the funding is there to get this taken care of.
Okay.
So that
How did you determine 3,700 was the ask you were gonna make of us?
We actually took the main costs, not the 2 alternatives. We did not include those as a total separate entity, and subtracted out what the city provided and what the school of op provided, and then we just divided that among the 3 that we're asking. It's just an even, 3,700 amongst the 3 that
So
we want to
TU
ask.
and Heidelberg and us were all being asked about 37.
Yes.
But you got somebody else that'll fund it. Anybody doesn't.
Yeah, they've said we will take it back to our board and we'll increase your.
Yeah, School of Op is looking for ways to better integrate their population, and one of the limitations is transportation. So that's their interest, and they also think they could offset some of their transportation costs. So it's mission-driven for them. So SCAT thinks it's mission-driven and would relieve some of their pickups, so, they're friendly organizations to us. So I think those 2 players wanting it tipped me in the favor of, well, let's see what this next study says.
In the spirit of percentages, as you know, we try to focus as much as we can on the fact that there are, besides 17,000 people in Tiffin, there are 57,000 people that we're representing. What percentage of this route would be outside the city of Tiffin?
I cannot answer that until we go through this plan
Okay, I get it, but I mean, conceptually, is this a Tiffin route or is this a?
Conceptually, it is a Tiffin route with several stops outside of the city limits.
Okay.
The increased tax revenue generation that this could create for the county is the bonus to the county out of this, because it will be able to get people who typically can't get out of their home on a daily basis to shop or go to work or do the things they need to do. This could actually get them there.
Well, for me, it's the complex, the south of town complex. It's providing public access to that, some of our hardest populations. Yeah, some of our hardest populations are down on our south campus with really no way of ingress, egress. You can't walk there, you can't bike there, you can't, take a bus there. And there's just no safe way to do that because you have that 224 and 100. It's just a historic anomaly. If we are able to support some of our constituents down there, then I think that's probably.
And I do think it helps with a bigger plan kind of thing. I mean, we spent a lot of money, we being the citizens, on sidewalks to different places, and, if we can get somebody at Westgate, they can find their way to Walmart if they had to, but at least there's a route there to get them not as far as they had to go before. Okay.
And SCAT already has funding for, I believe it is 6 terminals where you would
Bus
put up bus stop like shelters.
Yeah, she said.
So
That's
that,
that recycled material stuff, is that what I remember?
I really don't know where her funding coming from.
It was an ODOT fund. It was
That's
an
what I was
ODOT
thinking
grant.
was
But
it was
I
an
think they're
ODOT
recycled
grant.
I don't know
materials,
about that.
like the park benches.
I'm not sure, but I do know they have the funding for that already, so that is one cost that wouldn't be incurred or borne by anybody else because they already have received funding for it if we move forward.
Do we have this on the agenda for today's discussion?
I don't, but we can.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll have to have Tanya draw it up.
Yeah.
Are we
Well,
paying-
there won't be any, I mean, until there's a motion or anything, but I just wanna make sure we don't lose it once we go to executive session and come back. So that we at least talk about it. So
If you want
I'll
to
get-
pay it in
yeah.
8 or 17, then we need to do it today. If
Okay.
you don't need it till 18, then we can,
We could do it at the beginning of 18, and that would probably be better for all of us at this point in time, at the end of the year.
whatever works.
I appreciate your time, thank you very much.
Okay,
The only other thing that I had on, while we're talking about studies, was we did get the proposal for the parking garage study.
Okay.
And I forwarded that to you. So, the total ask on that, there was some question about that, was $20,000 to $25,000. And that, basically the scope of that was to look at 2 or 3 alternative spots, do a spot study downtown, give a schematic drawing of parking in a potential garage and some possible facades. So, originally, I think they were trying to raise $11,000 was the original
amount for a study, yeah.
yeah, amount for the study. The scope of this is larger, and so it's, their number here is 18 to 21,000, but then there's some additional
Yeah.
time. So, I just wanted to, I think the parking committee is gonna meet January 8th, so, that Monday, and so, I think we'll have a conversation about it then. David Zach's reviewing this and is gonna bring back a recommendation to us as to how he thinks we should move forward, At 20, we're halfway to building a parking lot,
Now,
So-
you said a parking garage study, is that really what it is, or is it a parking study? Is it truly,
A parking needs assessment includes recommendations to address future parking demands, identify 2 to 3 logical locations for a potential parking garage,
Okay.
and a preliminary architectural engineering investigation into parking garage geometry, space yield, commercial space opportunity, conceptual exterior facades. So,
it just, I mean, from a semantic standpoint, it just sounds like in advance they've decided we need a garage somewhere. Now we just gotta go pick out a spot.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not true, but it's sure what it sounds like.
the-
It takes 20,000 to do
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a balance that we're gonna have to have at this point, is that conversation. But the good news is, we asked for a scope, and we asked for something that, and so now we know what we would be funding. But, that conversation will be had in January, but I just wanted to make sure that.
You're gonna make a recommendation also after your January 8th meeting? Is that what your plan is, or?
Yeah, I wanna hear from, David Zach.
All right.
He has not given a recommendation on this, and we have not met and discussed it in
Okay.
the parking committee. So yes, I would bring it back at some point, but I wanted to make sure, since we were asking for what we would be funding, now we have it, now we have to have the conversation. It's twice what we thought it was going to be, for the scope that we designed.
All right.
The other thing that I have, if nobody else has anything for work session,
Go ahead.
I've got one more thing, is the County Commissioners Association is having a sexual harassment webinar training for free, 1-hour webinar on January 10th at 9:30. Top 10 do's and don'ts for sexual harassment. We've talked about, utilizing the resources available to us, and this is one of them. I think, I'm not sure who in our department heads gets the CCAO email blast, but I would like to see this circulated to our electeds, our department heads, and say, you may want to dial in on this and listen. We have a lot of educational resources available to us that we're not necessarily leveraging. And this goes back to our conversation about having an HR person and
Right.
using education. So at some point, I think we need to address that, but this is a hot enough topic that CCAO is putting on a special webinar on it. So I'd like to make this available to
Sure.
everybody.
What's the date again?
January 10th at 9:30 a.m.
The webinar.
Webinar, top 10 do's and don'ts.
Okay. All right, we'll wait here about 3 minutes and then we'll call the meeting to order.
You come tomorrow instead of Thursday?
Take a break.